Welcome back to the Pursuit of Purpose Studio. Today, our topic, I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today, our topic, I have to give a little bit of backstory before I tell you the topic. And this is going to be a little bit of a surprise to Chuck. It may not be that big of a surprise, but I was challenged before we talk about this that I have to actually say where the idea originated.
All right.
And when I say the first part, you'll get it. She told me I have to give her idea credit. So I'll give you the backstory. My wife and I are having some issues with one of our kids.
Okay.
And we love her. She's a beautiful child. And she is 19 years old. She just had her 19th birthday. So if she's watching, she's going to know we're talking about her.
Mm.
But as a 19-year-old, she does not have her driver's license.
Oh, wow.
And she doesn't seem to have a strong desire for independence.
Okay.
And she doesn't seem to have a big ambition to get out on her own. So my wife and I were having a little bit of an animated discussion about that. And I said, she said, this would make a great topic for your show. And she was like, she loves statistics. So she was like, then, well, I wonder what the statistics are like. I wonder what's the cause. So anyway, long story short, Denise Martin gets all the credit for the origination of this particular series idea.
There she has it. Yep.
So we're going to talk about, this is the first episode in a series that we're going to do. And this episode, we're going to talk specifically about independence. And moreover, the lack of desire for independence. And we want to talk about what's actually happened.
Okay.
And we'd love to hear from you if you've got kids. We'd love to hear from you about, what are your kids doing and what was it like for you? But specifically, this is dealing with more of the Gen Z era.
Okay.
Because it seems to be affecting them.
Right.
With great impact. So have you had any dealings with this, Chuck?
I have through the years, and this goes actually back, it could still be Gen Z. I don't know where the demarcation lines are on a lot of the generations. However, let's say within the last decade, I've had several young people come in and they're your daughter's age. They're rolling up on 20 and maybe there was a few false starts on things. And I'm using driver's license as an example because it's kind of at least from our era, that was a desired rite of passage.
Right.
That next step of independence. It probably started with, a bicycle, and then it ended with, four wheels and a motor. But there's kids are rolling up on 20 or better, and they have almost no desire whatsoever. And they're willing to allow this, I guess you could say, almost these disruptions in what we would consider a major disruption in the daily flow. Like when I'm done with a class or I'm done at a store, I'm ready to go.
Right.
But they're willing to sit there on the curve and wait for their ride to get there. And now their parents are looking at it like, what's the problem? We don't quite get it. And maybe we'll come to some of those conclusions, or maybe you can participate as an audience in what you think some of those conclusions are. But it's happening. And you and I were looking at some statistics that obviously maybe Denise went and found for us.
No, she didn't.
She did not.
She spawned the idea. I found the statistics.
Appreciate that.
By the way, I'm noticing and for those of you that are joining us live, we are now on TikTok, and I see there's quite a few of you joining. Thank you for joining us. If any of you have an interest in joining in live on the show, let me know. Let us know. Throw out a comment. Let us know that you are interested. We'd be glad to bring you in.
Yes.
So
yes,
by any means, by any rate, rather, whatever happens, please feel free to comment and let us know your thoughts and anything that you have as far as input about our topic today or in any time.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
And so as I see some of the statistics, the growing numbers, I can say in my little microcosm of what comes into my counseling office tends to also support these numbers. There are a good number of kids who can't wait till they're driving. Matter of fact, they're probably driving at 15, but there's a growing percentage that are pushing it away. And when I ask them, they don't say that that's a permanent push. They say, well, I'll get to it one day. And I'm thinking that's not really an answer. But they don't really have a lot else to go on. So it's been a bit alarming, because I know that the way I kind of look at it is, if I'm not doing something for me, somebody else is making up that difference, whatever that is.
Right.
And some of those are acceptable. I don't mind hiring somebody to cook my food. That's why I go out to eat sometimes. But then other things maybe are less acceptable. So what do you think as an audience? What is more acceptable and what isn't? And what do you think is maybe contributing things to this trend?
So have any of you out there got a kid that's, around anywhere from 16 to 19 that is experiencing this? Have any of you? One of the statistics that I found when looking at this, that teen licensing has dropped, which it blows my mind. In 2022, it was down 40% from 1994. Wow. 40%. That's crazy. Only right now, as it stands, only 25% of 16-year-olds are wanting to drive. Only 25% of 16-year-olds are driven to drive.
Wow.
Where did the ambition go? Where did the desire for independence go?
Right.
And I'd love to hear from you. Is this statistic holding true in your life? And what are we going to do to address it? Because as a nation, as a society, this place was built on the concept of independence.
Yes.
And if you look at the foundation, the core of our newer generations as they come, they don't seem to have a priority for that.
Right.
An interest in that. They seem to be rather blasé about it.
So what is this? Is this and these are just things I'm supposing, friends, please, your feedback. Is this a fear factor? Is this the product of an enabling? What is this? How did we get here? Because if I look back, say at our parents, my dad would hand me the keys and said, oh, you want to shoot basketball on the driveway? Go move the car. So I got to turn it, put it in gear. Now he's standing there watching because, that's his big purchase, not mine.
Right.
He wants to make sure I didn't roll over something important. But he's also probably knowingly or unknowingly, he's pressuring me a little bit in a healthy way toward wanting to do more of those kind of things, wanting to go to explore. And then eventually probably the conversation came up, oh, you want your own truck? Well, let's talk about getting a job. So there were steps toward independence. Is that a void? Is that something that's not being discussed in more homes? And that's just a guess. I'm not blaming parents. It could be something more from other influences. Maybe where they social media or where they see things on television or what have you. I don't know. I just know I can remember what influenced me to want it. And I'm just going with, say, the complete opposite in that theory. So is it then not as present in some of their lives? But what you're telling me is you guys have conversations with your daughter all the time. Yeah. And there's some other factor there, obviously.
Well, we are at a loss because in our home, we have raised what will soon be 7 kids. Mm-hmm. And the first 4 desired strongly to have independence. Mm-hmm. And now these younger ones coming along, or at least the 19-year-old, you know what? And I'll say this, the one that's now 21, she was a little bit, no, I take that back. She had a strong desire for independence. Mm. So this 19-year-old is a phenomenon. An anomaly. And we don't understand it. And I would just love to know how many of you, are any of you out there 19, 18, 16, any of you out there fit in this age range, maybe 20, 21, that had this experience? And you could explain to us, why did you wait to get your license? Why did you wait to thrust yourself out into society and become independent? Mm-hmm. Like we talked about earlier, like you mentioned, is there a fear? Mm-hmm. Is there a fear? Are they afraid to be out on their own? I remember, when I was young, that first time when I left there was a little bit of uneasiness,
Yeah.
but I was more excited.
Right.
I was more excited, to be out on my own.
Sure.
I was stupidly unafraid. but where has the stupidity gone?
Goodness knows
We need it.
I've proved that stupidity many times.
Right.
More stories on that later. But there was this drive for independence. And if you think about it, a lot of times parents come in, they come in your world, they come in my world, and they're very bothered by some of, we'll call it maybe different rebellions. Maybe it's sarcasm, maybe it's other things that kids may do, and you have to kind of shake your head, but you have to address it as a parent. But what they're really doing is they're practicing their independence. They're practicing their individuation. So on a deeper level, a parent, yes, they have to address inappropriate behavior, but also on another level, they can go, but at least they're learning to do it on their own.
Right.
Take their consequences and then overcome those consequences. And do we take that away from them at times? Do we try to soft land their failures? Do we try to give them these little golden parachutes so it don't hurt so bad? I don't know. But I know there's some parents that have come in and told me, Chuck, I failed on that one. I should have let my kid have those consequences, and maybe overcoming that would have fostered better independence, or at least more maturity. And I said, well, possibly. So those are always good conversations.
I think it's entirely possible that our consequences have been so light that there's not been enough friction to push them out of the nest, like to give them that desire. That's part of the reason that, at least for me, and maybe some of you can relate to this, but part of the reason I wanted to get out so fast or so badly was because I felt like I was, oppressed, or I had too strong of boundaries or whatever.
Sure.
I learned later that it wasn't the case,
Right.
but is that a part of what we're doing, crippling our youth by not having so strict of boundaries, so strong of rules, so harsh of consequences, that they feel so comfortable to stay home? They feel so safe, and they feel so little desire to leave.
Right.
A mother bird in their nest, they shove them out.
Yes.
They jump out and they try to coax them at first, but when the little chicks show themselves to be too comfortable and they don't want to leave, the mama bird gets up there and does what it takes to knock them out of the nest.
Either
And
flap hard or land hard, one of the two.
it's one or the other. And so, and the other question is, what are we going to do? Okay, so we're the problem, right? Obviously, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Parents of my generation, we've got some problems that we've created. So how are we going to address it? That's the huge question in my mind. Like, what am I going to do with this 19-year-old? And how am I going to rectify the situation that I've created?
Right.
And I honestly am at a little bit of a loss, because she's 19. She's a grown adult, chronologically speaking.
Right.
And I don't know what we're gonna like. I don't know what she would do right now, even if we did kick her out.
Right.
She doesn't have that spark, that ambition.
Well, even starting with just say, using a motor vehicle to get to and fro. Well, what if we were to start backing off on some of that? We did this incrementally instead of just pushing them out of the nest, which might be a little bit much, but if we were to say, well, we're not available. I'm not available to just come by and get you. So you're going to have to figure out a way to get home, and well, you're not going to come back and get me? No, I'm not. And because I'm not available. You have siblings, or I'm working, or I have responsibilities, Well, and then of course you're going to get some of the defensive feedback. Well, that's not fair. That's not this, not that. So, well, actually what's not fair is you want me to stop my life as an adult. And I'm talking to you as an adult. Because you are not willing to do the things to help us. Helping us would be get your license. and we'll help you get a vehicle, but it comes in increments. And so it may have to be a few hard no's. And that's just a suggestion, friends. If you have a different suggestion, you can please pitch one out. I'd be love to verse that out with anybody, because that may be a little bit much, maybe too difficult for some people. Well, no, Chuck, I don't want them to miss out on things. Well, maybe missing out might foster that appetite.
And it seems like, and I haven't been so worried about her missing out. I don't really care about that.
Right.
But what I have cared about is, like, I can't bring myself to let her be somewhere and not be able to get home. I don't know what my problem is. And that's part of the thing in me that I think is part of the issue. Like, I don't know how to get past as a dad to be able to just say, no, figure it out on your own. And then in my mind, I go to the what ifs. Well, what if she allows a stranger to bring her? What if she gets in a vehicle with a stranger and then something bad happens and then I'm responsible? Like, that's where my brain goes. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's okay, but I can't, I don't know. I'm having a hard time with that.
Right.
And I would love to know, what do you guys do?
Yeah.
I mean, have any of you run across this at all? Or is it just me? Because I've talked to a few other parents and I have heard other people say that they've experienced it. How have you guys addressed it? Have you at all?
Because statistically speaking, it's in everybody's world. If it's not in your home, it's in somebody close to you. It's in their home. And there's a nephew, a niece, or a good friend with a kid. And it's happening right now. They're already rolling on to 17, 18, 19. They're leaving high school. They're going to other jobs or campuses, and they're still dependent.
Yes. Hey, I got a question for you. How many of you have kids that are 15 or 16 years old in high school, or maybe you're a 15 or 16-year-old person in high school? Is driver's ed in high school still a thing?
Ooh.
Because my kids didn't take driver's ed there.
Right.
Like, what happened to that? Is that no longer a thing? Am I missing something? Do I need to pull up Google and search that, or what?
That's a good question, because it's been 15 years in my home since the last one went through that. And so that could have changed. Maybe they don't do that in school anymore. Maybe it's all become private business, or at best.
So we are, as a society, we are perpetuating a new generation some kind of way that we are doing this, and we are fostering an attitude of dependence.
Yes.
We are ingraining in our culture these new generations with a complete and utter dependence.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but think that how can we expect these generations that are coming along to lead our nation one day,
right,
when they are so dependent to get or do anything?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm having a really hard time with that, and it worries me for the safety, security, and future of our nation.
Yeah, there's some future casting in this conversation.
Yeah,
and I know you guys who are attending with us today, you have to be thinking about this as well. Think, okay, well, what's this going to look like a decade from now? Because that's not very far. Now we're in the 2030s, and we're looking around and we're thinking, where are our leaders? And so where do they come from? So we'll work on the problem at hand, but I'm glad you brought up the idea of, well, what do we do now with those who have the younger than 15s to start preparing their minds now? And hopefully you guys have some feedback on this to say, how, and maybe if in your world there was some neglect of conversation, what do you wish would have been said to some of those youngers? When maybe your children were down around 10 or 12 or what have you, to start fostering that independence.
Right.
I just keep going back to the idea that maybe there were some parents out there who felt a sense of threat to that. Maybe they liked the codependence. They liked being over dependent on, because it gave them some weird sense of identity. Now, this is Chuck the counselor going down that trail, but is that a real thing?
Some strange sense of value.
Yes.
So, yeah. And like in society in years gone past, we go through this cycle. Okay, so you're born and you are completely dependent.
Mm-hmm.
And the family unit is teaching the baby to become more and more independent.
Yes.
And then over time, that cycle reverses.
Mm-hmm.
And then the parents of that child then become dependent on the child. So what are we going to do when we reach the age of need for them?
Yes.
Who are we going to be able to rely on? And I just thought of this while we're talking about this.
Wow, that's good.
You don't necessarily want to feel entitled that your kids help you in your old age. At the same time, aren't you entitled to that a little bit? Not necessarily monetarily, but in other ways. You helped your kid out so much. You helped them survive and thrive and, become whatever they become.
Sure.
You would think the least they could do is be there for you. But if they are completely and utterly dependent, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all those things, if they're completely dependent,
right,
they got nothing to give.
Right.
So we're creating a deficit that we don't know how we're going to answer.
Right. Well, definitely the product of independence is developed skills.
Yeah.
That's kind of, those words bleed into each other because codependence basically kills those skills. They're not going to develop. I just a little personal, I helped take care of my 86-year-old mom. Okay. Well, we've had those conversations and she thanks me for going by and getting some paperwork signed or dropping things off or whatever. And I said, of course, she can thank me all she wants, but either myself or my sibling are going to be there. That's what we do. And we're able to do it. And it's likely I will continue to be able long past the time where she doesn't need that anymore.
Right.
And so I think that is part of the whole progressing process. And, just kind of per our beliefs a little bit, that's also very biblical. We're supposed to take care of folks when they get to a place they can't take care of themselves. And but we have to create people who have not only the ability, but they have the desire to do that.
Part of it, while we sit here talking about this, and as I think about it, part of the problem, I think, really stems from lack of consequences.
Yes.
I really believe that we are fostering dependence by taking away natural consequences, like as a for instance. And I'm not saying we should forego safety, okay? But I'm going to use something that my generation did as kids that would be considered, oh my gosh, it's so unsafe.
We're not
these
confessing
days.
any crimes here, are we?
We rode bicycles with no helmet. We rode bicycles without knee pads, without helmets. We didn't even have shirts on a lot of times.
Right.
Or shoes. I can't tell you how many times those Bear Trap bike pedals tore my feet to shreds.
Right.
And so we got to ride our bikes. We had to learn about traffic because guess what the natural consequence is if you don't pay attention to traffic? You die.
That's right.
So we had to learn about traffic. Then we had to learn about the results of stupidity, which would be injury or pain.
Yes.
And, we did things to test that naturally.
So remember those times when we would actually defy gravity and our bike would leave the earth, which meant what goes up must come down. I'm sorry, that's the nature of it all. And boy, if you didn't learn how to land, you were not going to land well. Well, guess how you learned how to land? By not landing well.
Right.
And you wiped out, you got up and you brushed it off and you got back on the bike.
And we had friends, man, I don't know how it was for you in your neighborhood or whatever, but when I was that age, for a time, we lived in the south end of Beaumont, Texas. And, we'd be out there with all the other little kids in the neighborhood. Yeah. We'd have our bikes and we'd be doing things, and the friends would all be lined up watching you jump this ramp.
Yes.
And they'd mark the spot on the ground to show the distance that you traveled from the ramp. And if somebody wiped out, guess what? They didn't worry about the kid that wiped out. They just moved him off to the side and marked the spot where he landed so the next one could jump.
That's right.
Because, he better learn how to land next time if he wants to stay in the competition. And at the end of the day, you'd go home with whatever injuries you had, and those were your medals. Those were your war medals, man. You battled that day.
Yes.
So
you battled.
Nowadays, instead of riding a bike, getting your feet tore up, jumping the ramp, falling on the ground, or whatever it is, nowadays that kid would be lovingly wrapped in bubble wrap with his, DOT approved helmet and his dust mask and everything else in the world, with the bicycle with training wheels until he's 13 or whatever.
And a chain guard.
And a chain, everything. Yeah, I don't even know what that is, but yes, all the things. And so the kid doesn't even know what it's like to have the experience of consequences.
Oh, it happens. And there's a high likelihood, just to take it another step further, this kid's not even growing up with a bike. They already grow up with a golf cart or side by side. They have no idea what life is like on two wheels, that you have to learn to balance. It's already balanced for them. So, I'm just running this as far as we can take it. But yes, I remember playing tackle football in the yard. And we didn't have pads. When we got to football, they finally gave us pads. Well, what difference is
you were a mean machine by then?
That's right. I was already getting wiped out.
You didn't even need the pads anymore.
That's right. That was just a suggestion.
Right.
There was already blood on the grass in the front yard.
Oh, so really, I truly believe in my heart that one of the biggest root causes, and I'm guilty. I'm not preaching. Okay, I'm actually speaking that I myself am guilty of this, but I believe that one of the biggest culprits of the lack of independence in these new generations is the lack of consequences.
Yes.
The lack of, not just natural consequences, but punishment.
Right.
And the problem is that my generation, we got lazy. We really did. We're the microwave generation. I'm Gen X. Microwaves came out, when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it. So we have learned to get everything instantly.
Yes.
We have learned to master the art of laziness.
Right.
And the problem came in when we became lazy as parents.
Yes.
And to make a kid have structure in their life, discipline in their life, it takes energy and effort as a parent.
Right.
So the other thing we did as Gen Xers is all of us had to get jobs.
Yes.
So there wasn't a one person staying at home, when the kids were young to take care of the kids. No.
Right.
We got jobs. So at the end of the day, we're too tired.
Mm-hmm.
We're mentally exhausted, physically exhausted. We come home and we want to be lazy. So we don't want to have to enact discipline on our kids when we get home.
Right. Right.
But here we are reaping the reward, the natural consequence of that laziness.
Right. And even some of the things, the teachable moments to add to our laziness, even some of the teachable moments of take your kid outside, show them how the lawnmower works, show them how to change the oil in certain things, watch them bust their knuckles when they're trying to get their hand down in things or whatever. Instead, we just moved them out of the way. We just did it. We took care of it.
Yes.
And our kid didn't learn anything.
And that's another form of laziness.
Yes.
And we gave ourselves a pass because we were just getting the work done.
Right.
But the problem is that we took away the independence by doing that.
Right.
So as we close this show today, we thank all of you that have joined us. Really, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to talk to you guys. And we'll let you know that we're going to be here next Tuesday as well. We ran the show a little bit late today.
Mm-hmm.
I had a previous engagement that I had to be at, so I was late getting into the studio.
It was a good thing to be at, though. But more on that later.
I'd like to challenge you all that if you are a parent, follow through with consequences for your kids.
Yes.
Take the extra time and energy and commit to having discipline with them.
Yes.
And putting that kind of love in their life, because it is love. Discipline is one of the ultimate expressions of love.
Yes.
Because you're building in them that sense of independence and ownership of their own life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're fostering ambition.
Yes.
And they're going to need that later.
Right.
And if we don't do it, you're going to end up like me. You're going to have a 19-year-old that you don't know what to do with.
Right. There's a rule, and this is going to sound common. We've heard it in a couple of our books because we listen and read a lot of the same books. And the rule is very simple, and it happens in a lot of industries. So if you have children that are still at developmental ages, or if you have friends who do, try this one. So teach your child how to do something simple, maybe something in the kitchen or something in the garage. And then first, what you do is you show them this is how it happens. The second time is you watch them do it. And then the third time, have them teach you back. So you're still there, you're still supervising, but the first one is observe, the second one is do, the third one is teach. Just follow that basic pattern, because by the time you get to the teach level, now the child is hungry for more. If I can do this, I can do that. And I can do it so well. I'm telling my own dad how to do this.
Right.
And the dad could be there to make a few minor corrections, but by the time it gets to the third opportunity, that kid now has it pretty well down. And it could be, and you start with something simple, how to make a sandwich and cut it from corner to corner. That may seem so simple, but guess what my child learned how to do? Use a knife in the kitchen. So the kitchen's now less intimidating, or the garage is less intimidating, and that's just going to get bigger and bigger. Maybe that's a suggestion for folks who still have that developmental opportunity.
Yep, I like it. Well, thank you guys. And we would love to hear from you. As always, I always make this request. We'd love to hear from you if there's topics that you'd like to discuss. We'd love feedback from you about how we're doing and the topics that we're already discussing. If you like them, we'd love to hear that, anything at all. But otherwise, thank you for allowing us to be a part of the pursuit of your purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
Y'all have a great day, and we will see you right here next Tuesday at 10 o'clock for the What Are We Doing podcast in this same series. We'll show y'all episode 2. Next week, we're going to talk about the economic impact of this same topic. So you don't want to miss that, and hopefully how we can improve on that situation. Y'all have a great day.